college student, a Seattle physician, spent nearly a year in Tanzania studying chimpanzees under the tutelage of the legendary Jane Goodall. In the new book, Following Fifi, My Adventures Among Wild Chimpanzees, Lessons from Our Closest Relatives, Dr. John Crocker relives his time in Africa. He also shares how the chimpanzees have helped him better understand patients who are living with ADD, anxiety, and depression. Please welcome Dr. John Crocker. It is so good to meet you.
Thanks so much.
So good to meet you.
Me.
We totally loved this first picture that you're about to see with a very young you and a very young Jane. How did this come about?
Well, I was an undergraduate student at Stanford and studying pre-med. So I was doing organic chemistry and biology. But my junior year, I'll never forget walking into this big auditorium and seeing Jane Goodall, just at that age, lecturing and showing these beautiful films of National Geographic of her out with the chimps. And I was just mesmerized. I saw that and I went back to my library cubicles to study more organic chemistry.
And thought, I want to get out in the world.
I did. That's exactly right. I just felt like this would be an adventure of a lifetime. And 2 months later, she began taking 2 students every 6 months with her to study and carry on the data. And at that time, I was very interested in child development, and her work really featured the study of how mothers raise their young in the wild. So that was perfect and I applied, and in the interview, I was very nervous, but I told the people interviewing me, you know, how important it was for me to kind of try and figure out what the main ingredients are for successful mothering. So that if you look at a human or a non-human primate, you know, what are the good things in terms of parenting, the environment, to assure that they're going to be a vigorous and successful adult. That was my interest.
A solid bond that leads forward. So what did you learn?
I think the most important thing for me in studying the chimps, Fifi was the main chimp that was so...
There's Fifi.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's just too good.
She was so easy to get to know, and her personality, she was so charismatic. The researchers all sort of felt that way about Fifi. And she was a young mother, very playful, but very patient. And there's this long period of dependency that the infants have on the mother, too. They nurse for 4 to 5 years.
Wow.
And so during that time, the young chimp has to learn social behavior and learn to build a nest, learn to termite. And I think that, so the important thing about this to me was learning how important patience was, contact, the physical contact of reassurance. Fifi was a very reassuring mother and also very playful. She spent a lot of time just playing.
She had fun.
She had fun.
With
she had
the
a lot
kids.
of fun. Yeah. And that was really nice for me to see. And knowing that if you look at chimp DNA and human DNA, there's only 4% difference in our DNA. Isn't that amazing how close?
How is her vocabulary? Did she understand a lot of words?
In terms of Fifi?
Yes.
No,
not Jane. I know she understood. That was no Fifi.
Jane's very articulate. Jane is very articulate.
Fifi. Did she relate to you in terms of understanding some of what you were trying to communicate with her?
It's good you brought that out, because our main goal was not to interact with the chimps.
Just watch.
Just purely observe. And when I arrived, Fifi didn't even look at me. She had been followed for 13 years. And so the chimps were so habituated, and we all appreciated Jane's work.
Yeah.
Took her months to get close enough for the chimps to accept her. And so, but chimps can learn sign language, just so you know, and they can, but in the wild, they communicate non-verbally. It's the one part of their brain that is different, the area for communication. So they can communicate, but not in the same way we do. It's through touching and vocalizations, the pant, like for an infant, the play face, if you know that, to let the other person know that you're actually playing and not fighting. It's this, and then a fear grin would be,
So that's different. The other chimp knows exactly what's happening.
And they learn those things.
From their moms and from others. So let's pull this forward. What kind of medicine do you practice?
So I'm a family doctor, 35 years of delivering babies and seeing old people and young people.
And how have you applied what you learned from the chimps?
You know, actually reflecting, as I wrote the book, Following Fifi, I reflected on that, and it became so clear that watching the chimps and learning how mothers successfully raise their offspring really did affect looking at behavior, everyday common conditions that I saw as a family doctor: anxiety, depression, attention deficit disorder, ADD. I began looking at it from an evolutionary point of view, knowing how close our chemistries and DNA is. You could see in the chimp community the ADD, for instance, and I'll give you a quick example. Carl, 8-year-old, came in to see me with his mother, clearly had ADD, filled out all the questionnaires. And so as I saw Carl in the office and knew he had ADD, 8-year-old, who really wasn't doing well in school, but in the office, he had the hyperactivity kind. So he was like fidgeting and wrestling around and would grab the otoscope, the light to look in your ears, and very disruptive, but he had a lot of energy. And I thought of the alpha male, the head male in the Gombe community, Frodo, who also would have scored very high in ADD. But he was one of the most successful alpha males in the community because he had to be impulsive. He had to look around. He had to be the protector of the community.
He had to be very reactive.
Reactive, exactly, just like Carl. And so I learned, for me, I sort of developed a warm spot in my heart for ADD because the same behaviors that you would see, the impulsiveness, also you could see creativity in these kids and adults. And the ability...
And ways to challenge. I mean, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but maybe ways to channel some of the, or look at those characteristics in a new light and channel them someplace really productive.
That's right. Almost like Carl would have been better on, maybe on a farm.
Yeah.
And so
I think my son was a chimp, so this would have been very useful to me to know more about that. But the book is called Following Fifi. There's so much to learn in there, and I'm just so grateful for you to give us a little taste of it today. Thank you very much, Dr.
Thanks
Crocker.
for having me here.
Dr. Crocker will discuss and sign books Saturday night at 6 at Orca Books in Olympia. Our website has full details, but you'd love this book. We'll be right back. Thank you so much.
Thank you.